Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Sorry about that. Pretty loud. Okay, we'll call the meeting of Planning and Zoning to order on May 15th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Megan? Here. Brian? Present. Brooks? Here. Rob? Here. Alyssa? Here. Michael? Here. Barb?
Here. Okay. Back up. Okay. Approval of the agenda. Did you see anything, Alyssa? You're our proofer. Oh, no, you're the minute. You're approver of the minutes. Oh, let's do the agenda first, yeah.
So moved to approve.
Second, no.
And a motion, a second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent calendar.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Bassett, I'll second.
Okay, and a motion, a second to approve the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now, Alyssa, the minutes. And we got a motion, a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Seeing no one in the audience for public comments, I think we could probably move on from that part of the agenda. Election, new business. We need a vice chairperson. Are you okay with doing it again? Somebody else is dying to do it.
I'm gonna make a nomination so I don't get nominated. I'm gonna nominate Alyssa to be the vice chair.
Good move. Okay.
Toad second.
Okay. And motion a second to elect Alyssa as vice chairman. How the train came down that track pretty quickly. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thanks, Alyssa. Okay, rezoning application River Park.
So, does not appear anyone from Western Hills or Van Buskirks are here. Well, we just kind of heard the door open, so maybe it's somebody. But I'll start them off. So this is out in River Park. This is one of the lots right along Holly that is zoned general business. Okay. You wouldn't be here for Van Buskirk, would you? Oh, fantastic. You're up right away. So this is one of the lots, general business, right off of Holly Boulevard. They are looking to subdivide part of that commercial lot into 4 tracts that are the same size as R2.
And if you could just give us your name and address, please.
Yeah. Jordan Hefner, you want our company address? Jordan Hefner with Van Buskirk. Address is 2571 Westlake Avenue in Sioux Falls. So what you're seeing here on the screen is the potential replat of 4 townhome lots in our River Park development on Riverstone Avenue, I believe. So yeah.
So do we have a map that shows more clearly where this is in relation to the road and the neighborhood?
So the road is just off the top, just below the minor plat words, but I can bring up the GIS. My understanding is once right here, it's where it was, but right kind of in here,
Correct.
just about kind of a little northeast of where it says Brampton.
Patrick, do we have the original preliminary plat? I tried to find it, and I couldn't remember how far back that we approved that.
I'm sure we could find it.
Is this just across the road from where we had R2 previously in the preliminary plat?
That I don't know. Full disclosure, I'm the home building side of Van Buskirk. I was just asked to stand in for this since I'll be the one building it. So, I don't work for the development portion, so. But yes, so these will, against Holly Boulevard will be, I believe it's zoned for strip malls, that kind of thing. These will be right behind it, and then across the street from that is, where it's zoned for Kelly Nielsen's, homes. So, single-family homes.
You say across the street, meaning south?
Correct. South of these would be single-family homes.
Yeah, my only concern is, it looks like you've got a driveway access from the south to general business. Is that a backyard? Is that a front yard? Without knowing what the intent is there? 'Cause
Sure.
If I understand it correctly, originally that was like a front and a back general business. Or sorry, I should maybe clarify it, a north-facing and a south-facing general business. And now we're just north-facing, is that correct?
Correct. Yep. So
And so
the
is that
plan-
is that a rear access? Is that a front yard access?
You're talking the driveway that's between
Yes.
the two. That would be the main access for that business. That would be on Holly, since we can't access that parking lot from
So
Holly.
is that becomes the front yard? Or
With
is that
the
become
houses?
rear
I don't know how you're
Yeah,
zoning.
with the houses or, living units face north or south?
They face south. Yep. So the front yard for the housing faces south, if that's what you're asking.
No, I'm more concerned about the general business.
The
Just-
general
just
business will
just
face
north
north.
of the R2.
Correct. The plan is for the general business to face north, have a parking lot between the business and Holly Boulevard.
So what, if the parking would be behind the businesses, the parking would, for the businesses would go all the way up to these,
No, the parking will be in
Dwellings?
front of the
the
businesses.
front of the businesses?
Yep.
So what would be behind, would it be paved then behind the living dwellings, between the businesses and the dwellings?
The
What
way,
would that be?
The way that these residential lots are drawn currently, we have them drawn at a typical residential depth, so they will have a backyard still. As far as the buildings that they have me potentially building on these buildings, or on these lots, they're a typical residential depth. 125-foot depth, I believe, is what we have them drawn at. I can't read that far, but, so they will have a typical backyard. We have them planned for doing a physical barrier, which is required in Sioux Falls. I don't know branding zoning rules as much, but, we would have a physical barrier between, the multifamily and then the commercial, or the office.
And these would be, what did I read, fourplexes?
Correct. Ranch, fourplex, townhomes, yep,
One story?
1 story.
Do you know what would be to the west?
To the west, there's one more, commercial or business lot. So, same to the east.
I'm not so concerned about the R2 lot as I am, what's the front, what's the rear, what's the impact to the general business?
So where is the driveway for the general business? It sounded like you were putting the driveway, that driveway there was for the business, but the business is going to face north, with parking north of the business.
So the intention currently, and obviously the commercial lots in question will be for sale. So there's a little bit of gray there. But the intention currently is the driveway that's between buildings 2 and 3 of the townhomes, right in the middle of that picture, would be the access point for the parking lot for that building. the intention for the commercial section would be to have a building behind on both sides. So that driveway would be splitting two buildings. So,
So this, there's no streets on this plat. Are these tracks fronting on what is called Riverstone Street?
correct.
So Patrick and Paul, what are you guys going to consider the front yard for what's left of the general business? Is it gonna be Riverstone Street, since that's where it's accessed from? Cause we're not accessing from Holly.
As staff, we would probably talk about addressing, but my understanding, I'm sure for marketing purposes, they would want to say Holly Boulevard.
Correct.
But I imagine for addressing purposes, we would probably do the south, because that's where it's accessed
So
from.
what's the front yard and what's the front yard setback? What's the rear yard? What's the
Yep.
rear yard?
So both, the way we've interpreted it in the past, where you have an interesting kind of strip there is, so the front yard would be 25, and there would be a rear yard, front yard as well on the other side, because that's a frontage as well, even though there's not an access. As well as this area coming off of the 4 lots, that would also be a front yard. The front yard would extend across, it would just be pushed up more because of the access.
And so you're aware that what you're leaving for general business is gonna have some setbacks
Yes, we're aware.
on both sides.
Yep.
Okay.
Would there be an access to the businesses from the west?
Nothing has been proposed to us. The rough draft I saw does have an access between the lots going across. Nothing has been requested off the west. It would probably depend on its location. I'm sure if Tammy were here, she would say that it would be required to be 300 feet back off of the intersection, because that's our standard. And where that falls in terms of this, I don't know.
Correct. Without knowing what the business is to the west or to the east, that would be hard to determine. Correct.
with driveways facing the south.
One thing that comes to my mind when I look at this is that when this is zoned commercial, there's potential for the city to gain sales tax income. And I don't know about property taxes. Are they higher on commercial lots? Is property tax higher on commercial lots than residential?
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
And
I know ag is by far the lowest tax.
Yep, yep. Now, that's not to say we would get sales tax from those sites for sure, cause it could end up being a H&R Block or something, they don't charge sales tax. Or do they, I don't know, but you know what I'm saying, could be a service thing, otherwise, if it's a retail, you know, then we stand to get sales tax from it. And so I hate to see those opportunities go away in a town like this where we have lots of properties on main drags in town that not only don't provide sales tax to the city for income, but also don't even provide property taxes to the city for income. So I hate to see any potential commercial land go away.
think as far as the private developer side of that, what we would tell you based on the strip mall projects that we typically do, which is what we're proposing this land on Holly for, is that there's excessive depth on these commercial lots. Just with how the layout came about for Riverstone, the depth that we need to do, say a commercial business like a strip mall that we would typically do in town, we've left ourselves ample depth to still allow the commercial business to build.
So, I'm just thinking, I'm pretending now in my head that I'm gonna go to one of those businesses. So I'm on Holly and then I turn south and go in there, and then I turn in front of these dwellings, and then I drive between the dwellings, and I'm assuming the businesses are all gonna face Holly Boulevard to the north. So I'll be driving into where the businesses are, and I'll be looking at the back side of all the businesses, and I have to drive around to the front. Parking will be maybe in the front.
That driveway that goes between the two townhomes will be between two strip mall buildings is the intention, with how the lots to the north are divided up
But the parking for the businesses would be,
between the business and Holly Boulevard.
okay. So as I drive in, I'll be looking at the backs of the buildings, and then I drive, you're seeing two buildings, and I drive between them, and then turn around and make a hairpin turn and park.
Yeah, I guess my concern with this is, and what we approved in the preliminary was this, I don't remember the name of the street.
Riverstone.
Riverstone, thank you, was a split street. The north side served businesses, the south side served residential. Now, we're forcing all of this commercial traffic to go through residential streets. I'm not very keen on that, because now Riverstone is gonna have residential on the north side, residential on the south side. And we're gonna be bringing truck traffic to service these buildings. We're gonna be bringing lots of daily traffic. I have no idea what's gonna go in those businesses, what's gonna go in those strip malls. But we're now bringing all of that traffic through a residential neighborhood with little kids, especially in an R2, a medium to high density housing, which I'm not really in favor of that.
Yeah, delivery trucks, maybe even semis.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to have the delivery trucks and semis on Riverstone regardless with how this is set
Right,
up.
I understand
So-
that, but like I said,
Yeah.
originally the initial preliminary plat, that street was shared.
Understand.
It was commercial on the north side, residential on the south side. Now, what you're showing is it's residential and residential on both sides. Unless there is another access to that,
And
which I'm not hearing that there is.
I guess the hard part on that is just, we could have a business that comes in and buys, the property to the west and the property directly north of these townhomes, and that eliminates the access problem completely. Or if Van Buskirk develops it ourselves, we could take all 5 of those commercial lots and eliminate the issue as well. And, create one complex as we do often in other towns. So.
another thing that comes to mind is that there might end up being prop all the way across on each one of those lots on the north side of that street. Might that might be requested in the future. I mean, it might not, and, you know, who knows? It might not, but. Would any of you, I'm thinking I might want to wait and have the developer come in and talk to us before I would be real comfortable making a decision.
Van Buskirk is the developer.
Yeah, I speak for the developer.
You do?
I do. I have
Well,
full operational control to speak for the developer on this.
all right.
So
Okay.
we have no intentions to add more than the 4 buildings that are there.
Well, yeah, I know.
So,
Did you have intentions to put these 4 there? I mean, intentions change, you know.
Decided on this, once we had a preliminary, they started switching everything to R2 as well on us, and we had to stop them there. And I know there's other stuff coming at us that other people don't know yet on this development in the back corner that's not to us yet.
So did the strategy just change a bit, that it was one way and now we're interested in rezoning?
In all honesty, the reason for these 4 buildings is we reviewed it, and I come from the residential home building section of Van Buskirk, and that's the business I'm in. I told the company that we in the property management sector of our business, they're asking for more rental units in Brandon, and we took a look at the land that we own and deemed that this was the appropriate spot to do so. So.
Just having one driveway there does concern me with a truck going in there for deliveries. Then they're gonna have to back up somewhere and turn around, and without seeing the layout for the commercial side of it, that concerns me, how they're gonna turn around. I would like to see 2 driveways somehow, whether it's another driveway to the east, west, put the buildings, the 4 plexes together and have driveways on the ends or something. I'd like to see something with 2 driveways.
And we do have, is this the only exhibit that was submitted?
It appears so.
Okay. We do have a drawing. I don't know. I'm assuming there's a reason that Steve only submitted this due to the zoning meeting, but we do have a preliminary of the driveway to the west that's drawn at 40 feet as well. But that's off of these 2 lots. I'm assuming that's why we only had the staking engineers stake it this way. So.
I guess I'd be more in favor of this if there was a way to access this from the east and west, to access the general business. But I'm not real keen on bringing commercial traffic through residential.
Our
streets.
intention is just as so, but where I struggle as far as being able to answer that appropriately is with these being still for sale. With the lot to the west being for sale currently, if that for some reason is purchased separately from the other parcel, that would be, I wouldn't want to tell you that our intention currently is to have the driveways tied together. The parking lots tied together all the way across the front on Holly there. But without obviously being the person that's selling the commercial lot and all of that, I can't 100% say I have certainty that will happen. So that is our intention, is for those parking lots to all be combined so that you could utilize, you know, the east lot driveway, the west lot driveway, or the center driveway.
But right now, this parcel is landlocked. And so there's
Correct.
no guarantee that that's gonna happen.
Correct. Since they're all for sale.
There's no easements.
Yep.
To the west, no easements to the east. I'm trying to envision like the strip mall, Pizza Ranch. You know, that whole strip mall there. All of those people that go to that strip mall on Split Rock, accessing that through a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
But the challenge is you don't know what kind of businesses are gonna be in there, right? Are they gonna
Correct.
be high-traffic businesses, or if it's an accounting firm, you know, it's gonna be one
Exactly.
car a day?
Which a lot of our office complexes that we build like this, the strip offices, are low impact as far as that goes, where it would be low semi-traffic. But, you know, once you put in a building like that, it's up to the tenants that are willing to fill. So,
It could just as easily be a Burger King.
correct.
So it's like a chicken and an egg, cause you can't sell it if it's not zoned right, and we don't know what would go in there, so then we don't know if we want to go that way, so.
And our intention for bringing this forward when we did is the fact that we're trying to put these 4 units in starting July 1st. We're trying to get these rentable, you know, somewhere between the end of the year and mid-February, to bring in, you know, 16 more tenants. So, yeah, I definitely don't believe that it's Van Buskirk's, you know, it's not in our best interest to hinder what's going in that commercial section by any means. We have no intention of creating an issue on Riverstone. The intention was to utilize that added depth that we have in those commercial lots, and frankly, we need rental units in Brandon for our group and our portfolio. We're seeing that an awful lot right now in our residential property management. So that was the full intention of bringing this forward.
Because I'm not saying that it can't work. I think we have a picture here that's not complete. I think that's our problem.
And unfortunately, with how commercial real estate goes, the picture may be incomplete for a little while. So, you know, we could, as far as a commercial developer goes, we could get lucky and these fill in, you know, 10 months, and we have our contracts and we're off to the races to build these units. Or they may, you know, as evidenced by the Brandon Bluffs commercial stuff, it may be, you know, the case of years before we have this commercial piece completely filled in. We don't have that crystal ball, of course. So that's why I say it's just our intention to bring the rental units online right away. We thought it was a good fit with the Kelly Nielsen single families across the street. So.
And these units you wanna build can't go on the south side of that street.
They cannot. We have sold the south side of the street.
So would there be some additional information that you would like to see? I don't know if there is anything, but
Would like to, but realistically, what we're presented with is this rezoning for these 4 plats, so.
Patrick, can you pull up the GIS again? Is it, so it's in the middle of that lot there, is that right? Or is it like by that 33 where it lines up with that driveway or the road to the gravel pit? Is it lined up more with that?
You're missing, in the current GIS picture, you're missing some pretty valuable data as far as where the new road comes in and that kind of stuff. But yes, so the proposed location is a little further east of the cursor. So yeah, about right there would be the
It's just in
driveway.
the middle of that.
It's right in the
big-
middle.
Correct. It's right in the middle, but there's, yeah, 4 lots there, 4
If we were on
commercial
the end,
lots.
it wouldn't be a big deal.
Correct.
And where are the accesses off Holly planned for in this development? I mean, are there planned to be 2?
They're on.
That's,
I think there's two. There's
There's
one
2. Yep.
where that road comes, that Dog Leg Road, that,
Mhm.
that is intended to go straight north.
Correct. And then there's
Across
one
from that driveway to the.
closer to where the
north side.
33 is.
And
Yep.
then left of the 33 is the other one.
Correct.
So it lines up with both the gravel pit.
Right.
And we're right in the middle.
We're right in the middle, so all that traffic's gotta come in those 2 spots. Down across and then accessing from the south side.
Which, regardless of if the townhomes are there, that's how your traffic will get into those as drawn. So
But then, I was gonna say, but then, how it's currently zoned, they wouldn't be driving through between 2 residential houses.
correct.
with
They
one
would only have
driveway. So
residential on the south.
that's-
All the driveways for the townhomes, they will come out to the river
Correct.
road.
Yep. 4 driveways per building.
So, okay, so 4 driveways and a parking lot.
Correct.
Do we have any like examples? Is there this setup anywhere in town really? Driving through residential? Or in Sioux Falls? Anybody you can think of to look at?
We could get you examples of it in Sioux Falls. I don't have any right off hand, but we structured this off of some stuff that has been done in Sioux Falls. Not that I personally built, but we also have this situation in Mitchell that we've done in the past. So.
so Patrick, just a reminder process wise, this is a rezone, so this is a recommendation to the council by our board.
Correct. It is currently on the council agenda for Monday, pending a recommendation from you all. If that, of course, is delayed, that would push that off, but it's tentatively on the agenda as whether you recommend for or against on Monday.
there's some things that we would like to have, second driveway or something, could we table it and have them bring it back? What kind of problems does that cause?
We would have to renotice a public hearing, but, I mean, we do that all the time, it's not a huge hurdle, that would be the big thing, we just have to renotice the city council public hearing. The one thing to note is you can't necessarily condition a rezone on something though, like a design or something like that. A rezone is what it is.
Okay, so yeah, this is just a rezone, not a. Yeah, okay. And so the rezone, if we rezone it, they don't have to do this plan anyway, this is more for our consideration. They could do something different, this isn't a preliminary plan or anything, it's just a rezone.
Correct, it's just assigning zoning to
Those four.
the 4 tracks. They could conceptually rezone, if it's rezoned to R2, it would unlock every permitted use in R2, or the conditional uses by conditional use, so.
I will say to that one, these 4 tracks that we're asking for rezone are specifically drawn for my 4 buildings that I build over and over and over. So, if you guys do approve, or whenever this goes through, if it goes through, the buildings are drawn, the plans are ready to go, approved by the company and ready to build, so.
So the concern is the traffic flow on that street, right? That's the main concern. Is there any way to alleviate that? I mean, is there any sort of in between here? I can't read a map, so I have no idea, but.
I think if I'm paraphrasing what is being said, that it very well could be that the business development would develop in a way that this wouldn't be the only access, but we just don't know that today, so that's
Correct. Yep.
I guess is there, I think I know the reason, but, is there a reason why you're not doing this on one of the lots that would be closer to one of the streets that's going to be there?
Oh, the lot to the east or the lot to the west?
Yeah, because of more prime in your.
Correct. The lot to the east and the lot to the west, I believe the intention would be for them to be a larger commercial business.
Yep. So you're reserving that space for something bigger, so, and that's what I.
Yep.
Assumed, but.
Correct. Like, for instance, down in Harrisburg, where you've got Ace Hardware through Fairway, through Dairy Queen, and then back out to Devitt Drive. That is our intention, is for, you're seeing one driveway between 4 platted pieces, where, in that instance down in Harrisburg, you can access Ace Hardware through our residential development. You can access Fairway through our residential development. You're accessing, semi-traffic comes right down Devitt Drive in Harrisburg to access Ace Hardware and Fairway. Same thing with Dairy Queen. That same scenario, a little different setup, but they drive through, fully developed residential road to get to the loading docks of both of those locations as well. Hasn't been an issue. We're going on close to 10 years in Devitt down in Harrisburg with this issue, and hasn't come up as an issue as far as the developer goes. We're still active in that development every day. So, the intention for these 4 pieces would be the same as what we did down in Harrisburg, where Ace Hardware ties into Fairway's parking lot, ties into Dairy Queen's parking lot, ties into the private road, or the public road. So, but without being able to tell you, hey, that's a Ace Hardware and that's a, Hy-Vee food, that's a, gas station, I can't. No one at Van Buskirk will be able to directly speak to that because we don't have signed contracts on any of the commercial properties that I know of. But the intention would be that the 3 driveways that come off of Riverstone into the commercial would eventually tie together all as one parking lot. It's a direct benefit to the businesses as well. You know, if the accounting firm only has 4 parking spots in front of them, but the rest of the strip mall has another 16 parking spots, the accounting firm benefits from that larger area. They also benefit from 3 entrances versus 1. So that would be our intention as the commercial developer.
Right, but there's no guarantee. Somebody could come in and buy a section.
As
and they
with
say-
all commercial
and they-
lots,
And they say,
there's,
no, I don't want
Yeah.
to. So you can come here and you can say this is what
Yeah.
your intention is, but you can also sell off a lot.
yeah,
And that
of
owner
course.
can say, no, I don't want to allow
Of course.
access.
Yep. As with all commercial developers that come in front of you guys, I'm sure you see this often. That's part of the world we live in as far as residential and commercial development. I don't think there's ever an intention to blindside the city council or anything. This was a decision that was made by Van Buskirk and the 4 divisions that we are to try and maximize the efficiencies that are created when you have a company that's got 4 divisions that can all work together. So.
So Devitt Drive down in Harrisburg does not go directly in. Part of Devitt Drive goes in front of houses. The other part does not, where all the businesses are.
Correct.
So probably the traffic from semis would not go in front of the houses.
I live that every day.
I'm just saying.
I see that traffic
So
every day.
it's quite a bit different than this situation.
Once it's fully developed, it will not be. Devitt Drive in front of the villas and townhomes will have considerably more residential traffic than this piece that we're looking at.
So I've also got another concern here. I'm trying to piece a bunch of things together here. So you have a 40-foot access between 2 R2s. That little strip there for the driveway.
Mhm.
So 15-15-3, that would be a side yard. 15-15-3.2 side yard. 15-15-3.2.C. Central business and general business. Parking spaces are not allowed within setbacks. So there's a 15-foot setback against residential in an R, if you abut residential. So you've got 40 feet, so you're only gonna leave yourself 10 feet for an access aisle in and out of there.
That I don't know. I'd have to talk to the engineer on that one. We hired an engineer to take care of that.
You got 40 feet, you
Oh,
need
I
15 feet.
totally get the math.
15 feet on the west side,
Yep.
15 feet on the east side. That's only leaving you 10 feet. That's a one-way drive.
And it won't be. It should have been at 20.
That's my point.
But that
And
I
that's-
can't
That's
answer.
our only way to get trucks, commercial vehicles, delivery vehicles, trash vehicles,
Correct.
public in and out of there.
Okay, do we have further questions for this gentleman? If not, I'm gonna ask for a motion one way or the other and see where the chips fall. Unless you got more questions.
I'm nervous about it for 3 reasons: the precedent, the traffic, and, as I mentioned, sales tax and property tax, income to the city. But, having said that, Van Buskirk has always been a good developer, trustworthy. I don't recall any problems in any of their other developments. So, but I'm still kind of nervous about this.
And to Rob's point, with the Harrisburg, with that layout on Devitt, that's totally different than what we're looking at here. Here's Willow, So it is a different layout, and my concern is I could see if all the other pieces were in place and that was one of the access to the back of the commercial, that might be an option, but when it's the only access and we don't know what the other plan is, I don't feel very comfortable with that, with only one access.
So if this isn't, rezoned to R2, then that blows up your plan.
I believe so.
So it pushes your situation back to, I don't know, I don't know exactly how you change it, but.
Pushes us back to company planning as far as where we take our residential business for the year. In all honesty, I'll be building these 16 units. It's just regardless of if I build them in Brandon or I take them to Harrisburg or I take them to Mitchell or Crooks. So that's the honest answer there.
So I want to understand here. So you guys developed the entire, I don't know how many acres we're talking here. But then you sold off the properties on the south side of the road.
Correct.
And now you want to build residential. But you can't. You want to build on the property that you still own, not buy something back that you already sold, correct?
We would have no intentions of buying back the south section. When this
my
piece of,
question is,
Right.
you sold it off.
that's what we
You
do.
sold off
We're a
the-
land
You sold
developer.
off the residential.
Yeah.
Now you want to build residential. And rather than buying back some of the residential, you want to put the residential on the commercial side, correct?
Not to sound rude as far as that goes, but the company is a residential and commercial land development company. The intentions when we bought the River Park development were to sell that portion in the center to one of two other residential home builders. There was never an intention of Van Buskirk Homes, which is my division, to build on the portion that you're talking about us buying back. There would be no option for us to buy it back.
But on you have to understand our aspect,
Correct.
is we saw a preliminary plan
Correct.
that showed this layout, that
Yep.
showed roads, that showed commercial, that showed residential.
Yep.
And now you want to change all of that. And we can't move roads. You've already got all the infrastructure in place, so we can't modify
Yep.
that. Ownerships have changed. And so what was presented is one thing, and what you're
course.
wanting to do now is
Yeah.
something totally different.
Totally understand where you're coming from on that one. This was purely a decision driven by the fact that we've been told there's a need for our rental market in Brandon. So, yeah.
So whatever recommendation comes out of this board goes to city council on Monday night. It can, if the applicant is not happy with the recommendation, it can be overturned by
Oh,
the
of course.
council.
Yeah.
Um,
If we make a recommendation, it's just a recommendation. I mean, the city council can agree with the recommendation or not. Their choice. We don't have any, what do I wanna say? We don't have the final word on it. But hopefully the council considers the recommendation. Yeah.
I agree with your statement that there's a need for different kinds of affordable housing in Brandon. I too see some issues here, and we do have to consider that access in the middle. and basically feel that it's sufficient because it could potentially be the only access to that commercial property there. We've also had some issues in the past with discussions on changing preliminary plans and have kind of been scolded for suggesting that things should change on a preliminary plan that we approved going the other direction. So I think I'm gonna be kind of in the same boat here, and I would, for that reason, make a motion to recommend that the council not approve this zoning change.
I'll second.
So that was kind of a double whammy, so not recommend the rezone. That's right, what you're saying, right?
That's
Okay.
what I'm saying, yes, I was thinking about the language as I said.
Well, I was trying to follow it, Brooks. Okay, all right. So we have a motion and a second to not approve the rezone to R2. Is that what that's what we're saying? Okay. I think we need to take a roll call vote, please.
Megan? Brian?
Aye.
Brooks?
Aye.
Rob? Alyssa? Michael?
Aye.
He was very nice to deal with, very nice.
Yes.
Yes, very nice, yeah. Unfortunate, okay, freestanding signage, discussion item?
So hopefully this draft is a little bit closer. We've crossed out the language about 2 or more frontages, and I've tried to go back and listen to what was there. We talked about the separation distances, kind of 2 ways were mentioned, so I have one highlighted and one in the paragraph. So I am open to your thoughts on this. The big change is you start with the 1-to-1 up to 200 feet, then lots exceeding 200 square feet of frontage shall be allowed 1 additional square foot of freestanding signage per 2. So it's that's in there. Just looking for feedback on whether this is closer than last time. Hopefully we are, maybe not.
So just some grammar, in the, it would be the second sentence, lots exceeding 200 square feet of frontage, that should be either 200 feet or 200 linear feet of frontage. And then in the last part of that same blue sentence, allowed 1 additional square foot of freestanding signage per 2 square feet of frontage. It should be per 2 feet of frontage or 2 linear feet of frontage. When we talk about the distance shall be, so the second blue sentence, the distance shall be measured along the frontage rather than a straight line between the 2 points. I think, as I've thought about that, I think that's gonna be really hard to administer. We always assume that signs are gonna be right out at the street frontage, but that's not necessarily the case all the time. And so how do you I just think the way of measuring that is gonna get really convoluted. And if we're really talking about signage density, I think it really comes down to a straight line distance. If it's 200 feet between signs, if it's 150 feet between signs, I don't know if it necessarily has to follow the outline of the property as much as it is how far apart from each other they are. That's just my comments.
Yeah, I can see that if you're 20 feet off of the property line, and then the other one's 20 feet off the property line, that's gonna bring them a lot closer. And if you're going off of the frontage, you're out there on the frontage is further than the property line, so depends on where you're measuring from, but, yeah, I can agree with you on that. And I would, I agree more with the distance in the section rather than the highlighted, the freestanding sign shall be separated from another freestanding sign by at least a distance equal to twice the area on the highlighted part. I don't think that's what I don't agree with that one as much as the sentence in the paragraph.
Yeah, because that contradicts the paragraph above, where it says a freestanding sign shall be separated from another freestanding sign by at least a distance equal to the area of the largest. So if we have a 200 square foot sign, we have 200 linear feet. But then you get to the highlighted one, it would become 400 linear feet.
And then, Brian, your statement was to simplify that second blue sentence and not, your suggestion was to not, to maybe take out the part about measured at the frontage and just a straight line between 2 points of the signs.
Yeah, if we're really concerned about signage density, to me, it really doesn't matter. It's just the distance between the signs, whether you're going around the property or whether you're going across the property. I think what we're trying to get at is we don't want two big signs right next to each other. So to me, if you got two 200 square foot signs, they need to be 200 linear feet apart, and not necessarily. They could be 50 feet apart, but if you're going around the property like at, say, Quick Star, and you're following the property line, they could be north and south 50 feet apart, but if you're going all the way around the property line, you're kind of defeating the purpose of the distance between the signs.
So do you want him to fine tune this a little bit and bring it back? Is that where we're at?
My only concern would be when we talk about the distance, when we start to talk about, okay, so here's an advertising sign, Bob's Grocery Store. But you might have a directional sign 10 feet away that says exit only, or entrance, or delivery vehicles only. But according to this, that small sign that might only be, 4 square feet would have to be 200 feet away.
Yeah, we have not been counting directional signs against the allotment. Those are just a given. So we would not put that into the equation. Is that okay? The directional
Yeah,
signs.
if that's how you guys are
Yes.
interpreting it, then,
Yes, sir.
okay. I'm okay with that.
Okay, other comments for Patrick, or do you have what you need, Patrick? Or?
I think so. Couple of linears crossing out a couple of squares, crossing out the highlighted part, keeping the separation distance that's there, changing along the frontages to just the straight line between 2 points.
Thank you for getting that all put together. Something to look, it's easier when you have something to look at. All right, anything more on that discussion item? If not,
I
Good.
think we should try to keep the sign thing going for a while though. If we could talk about this for a while longer.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Permanent
yeah,
placeholder on the agenda.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, we're going to decks. That's the other thing we like to talk about. Man, it's the same old stuff. Okay, let's move on to decks.
So, this is something proposed by Mr. Van Overshield for Chestnut Ridge, looking at other examples in the city of Sioux Falls. This is the one provided to us in the packet. There was also some information he submitted a little bit too late to get in the packet, but it is in your folder on your desktop, and if anyone listening at home wants a copy, send me an email or give me a call and I can get that over to you. But that is on your desktop as well. So he explained his situation a little bit more in depth last time we talked about it. My understanding was the consensus of the commission was that you wouldn't want any elevated deck to extend into the rear yard. His statement is that is not his intent. Everything will remain kind of in the buildable area outside of the setbacks. He just wants them to be elevated, covered, extend between property lines. Traditionally, you can make the argument that unless it's open, unenclosed, and uncovered, we would treat it as if it were a room. So long as it would be in the setbacks, we would allow them to construct a room. So why would a deck be different if it was covered? So what we've talked about is Paul has talked to the city of Sioux Falls people how they do that. A room is constructed, if we treat them the same differently than a deck would be. You would have a room conceivably between units would have a firewall. A deck would not inherently have a firewall. You could have a wooden deck catch on fire. It would connect to the wooden deck next to it and then blow out some windows and go into the other unit. But Sioux Falls does have some requirements that they add.
I'll just read you the email with a little bit of adaptation. So basically, I showed them this picture and then verbally just asked them how they would do it because just to give you a little background, the city of Brandon follows the same codes as the city of Sioux Falls, and if they make amendments, we follow those amendments so that when builders come over to Brandon, they don't have to disremember something. That's not a good word. So we always will get interpretations from their plan reviewers and their building inspectors and their building officials to make sure we're doing things the same way so there's no confusion. So when I posed this question, he said that we would let them build within beyond 3 feet, there's no firewall. So if the decks are more than 3 feet, no firewall. When they are closer than 3 feet, they shall be either non-combustible, aluminum or steel frame, or protected by a 1-hour rated wall. The wall requires a foundation and extends from that foundation up to the guardrail height between the decks, 42 inches. In residential, it's 36, but in a multifamily, it'd be 42. When this wall gets to within 18 inches of the dwelling, it becomes a firewall per se and is required to extend up to the roof sheathing above the eave and that type of thing. So it's a building code issue. Brian's probably worked with that. So it's extending that firewall out to the deck to protect them so that it doesn't chase. As if it's a room, but now it's a deck. So.
So basically, our question for you is, with the plans submitted on your desktop packet, do you have any issues or concerns with us permitting what he is proposing? For the duplex twin home, it is at grade, so they are covered patios. They are within the setbacks. It is grade level. For the fourplex, as on page 8 of the PDF, there is some height difference, and it does connect to walls, but do you have any issues with the deck connecting to the property line of the, what would be in the future the lot next to it? So long as there is a firewall of an hour.
Yeah, I think the firewall is more of a building code thing, but from my standpoint, you know, privacy, I think would, as long as that extends out there, I don't have a problem with that. And not extending the decks into the setbacks. The rear setback, not extending it into the rear setback. Side setbacks, I'm okay with. I just want to clarify that.
So from an application wise, a covered deck would be the equivalent of a room. We treat them effectively the same.
So just for clarification, these are separate parcels?
Currently, no. They will be. They'll build, then slice it up. My understanding, it's easier to slice it up after it's built, just because if something's off an inch or two, then that messes everything up. Once it's built, then it's easier to slice it off.
So am I remembering this right or missing it? Or does, other than the covered portion, this brings it back to the discussion we had previously of allowing decks on attached properties up to the property line on the side yard, except for the outside one. So other than the covered, this kind of brings it right back there, right? And then the covered, if the staff was able to interpret and enforce that room to provide that extra protection, and that's not proposing to be extended into the rear yard setback, then that seems pretty palatable to me.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much in line with what we talked about at the last meeting. And, you know, just for additional commentary, you know, that firewall needs to extend up through any concealed space, so like up in the attic spaces or whatever, if it's a common attic.
So is that what you guys needed, or do you need more?
I think we're okay from our end.
Yeah, I think the easy part of this is when it comes into interpretation, is it really comes down to the IBC interpretation, International Building Code, and not as much on the zoning side of it, because the two would pretty much be in line, right? Paul?
I agree with that. I think before, the staff has just treated decks differently, and now we won't.
Basically, if your deck is covered, it is a room. If it's not open, unenclosed, and uncovered, it is treated zoning-wise and building code-wise as a room. So it has to meet the setbacks.
Okay, so everybody's in agreement on this direction for staff? Okay, any,
So I guess maybe it's more than just decks, it's really anything that has a roof over it. It could be a roofed patio, it could be a roofed deck, it could be a roofed entry. You know, for example, if it's a large apartment that requires to be sprinkled, you would have to sprinkle that overhang, regardless of if it's over a deck or
it's over an entry or a patio.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the cause tonight? Do you guys have anything else over there? I think we went through all the agenda items. Okay, if not, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Can motion a second to adjourn, all in favor? Opposed? All right, good work, everybody. Thank you.
We are adjourned at 7:40 p.m.